gentlemen.
The battle of the billionaires. This is a brawl brewing in the tech world, and it's one for the ages.
Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg in the cage.
Elon Musk tweeted that he'd be up for a cage fight with Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg responded with, "Send me location."
Mark Zuckerberg won a gold medal in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition.
Elon has a move that he calls the walrus.
So, yes, this is funny, but it's also getting kind of serious.
Well, it may have started as a war of words, but Elon Musk's rivalry with Mark Zuckerberg might be about to get physical. Musk was asked about Zuck's plan to create a rival to Twitter, and he responded that the pair could settle their differences in a cage fight. Surprisingly, Zuckerberg agreed. Dana White, head of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, is stepping in to help ensure the bout goes ahead. He says it would be the biggest fight in history, worth billions.
The battle for your data has become personal. The billionaire owners of Twitter and Meta have challenged each other to a bare-knuckle cage fight. Mark Zuckerberg may have been an object of ridicule in the past, but he has spent his time off from the metaverse, training in a real gym with very real human athletes. The 39-year-old comes into this contest at 1.71 meters tall and 70 kilos, accomplished in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. His opponent is admittedly not in the best shape. When he's not pulling 90-hour weeks, he appears to spend most of his time on Twitter, the app he bought last year, while his fight experience is limited to, in his words, childhood training in judo, karate, taekwondo and street fighting. Despite being more than a decade older than the Zuck, he is far taller and heavier. He even has a special move he calls the walrus. UFC founder Dana White is leading efforts to get both men in the octagon.
This would be the biggest fight ever in the history of the world. Bigger than anything that's ever been done.
What do you think you would gross in something like this?
I think it would be the biggest fight of all time was Floyd Mayweather and Conor. And I just think it triples that. I think it triples with that. There's no limit on what this thing could make.
There are rumors the Italians have offered up the Colosseum as a potential venue, while Las Vegas will always cater to the biggest egos for the right price. So why do two middle-aged billionaires want to fight each other? Elon's purchase of Twitter last year put them in competition for the first time. But it was Zuckerberg's decision to launch a clone of Twitter called Threads that really ignited the rivalry. In the past, Elon Musk has been critical of Facebook over its misuse of private data and even took his companies Tesla and SpaceX off the platform in 2018. But it's not just ad profiles and data that Zuck and Musk are fighting over. It's an ideological battle over how the internet should be run. Musk bought Twitter last year and has pledged to turn it into a free speech platform. He's used his time in charge to bring back thousands of previously banned accounts, including Donald Trump, Jordan B. Peterson, Andrew Tate and Babylon Bee. He also says he's politically neutral, although he did call for people to vote Republican in the midterms. Zuckerberg also claims to be politically neutral. However, before the last election, he gave $400 million to maximize voter turnout, something Republicans say helps the Democrats. He's also criticized how Musk has run Twitter and made fun of Musk's distinctive tweeting style. Unfortunately, we can't broadcast Elon Musk's more salacious replies. What this comes down to is competition. Threads has put on more than 100 million users since it launched earlier this month, the biggest app launch in history. While Twitter remains the market leader, Zuckerberg has put Musk in an uncomfortable position. There are rumors he never really wanted to buy Twitter in the first place. He paid $44 billion for the company, and the asset manager Fidelity put its current value at roughly a third of that.
My timing is amazing. Since I've bought it for at least twice as much as it should have been bought for.
Well, we heard Dana White there saying this would be the biggest grossing fight of all time. But does the average person on the street really want to watch two middle-aged men grapple in a cage? And if so, who do they think will win?
Cage fight, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk? Who do you think would win?
Elon Musk all the way, bro. He'd batter him.
He'd batter him.
He'd batter him.
Definitely Zuckerberg, because I think he's a bit more like nimble on his feet.
Okay.
I can't imagine Elon Musk would be very fast and, you know, yeah.
Who do you think would win, Zuckerberg or Musk?
Zuckerberg. Back him up with Zuck.
Cage fight, Mark Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk. Who's winning that?
The cage.
I think Mark Zuckerberg, because he's already training, but Elon Musk has the physical advantage. I think he's a bit bigger and stronger maybe, and if he if he starts also to train, it would be an interesting fight, I believe.
And have you joined the app Threads, the new app?
Yeah, I have.
And what do you think is better, Threads or Twitter?
Threads.
And what do you like about Twitter?
You can say whatever you like. Yeah, that's what I like about it. Freedom of speech.
Have any of you joined the app Threads?
Just today.
Just today?
Yeah.
And what do you think of the app?
It's just like Twitter. Well, you got listings.
And what do you think is so? Which one do you prefer, Twitter or Threads?
I prefer Twitter. I think maybe Threads is gonna have like more, how to say, they're gonna control it more. Twitter is more open, you know?
He launched Instagram stories to counter Snapchat stories, I mean, and then he's launching Threads to counter Twitter. So I can see people in the tech space that are getting a bit sick of Zuckerberg trying to have a monopoly on the social media industry.
Things don't come cheap. You can't just come to someone's territory and take his stuff, innit? They'll somehow come back for you, still. So I think Elon Musk is gonna come for Zuckerberg somehow. Yeah.
Well, that's the ever-amusing view of Joe Public there, but now let's hear from the experts. And we're going to get to the legal and tech side of things in a moment. First, who would actually win the fight in the octagon? We have the UFC commentator Peter Carroll with us. Who better to answer that question? Hey, Peter, I mean, you used to live with Conor McGregor.
We had a 2-week spell there, yes, while ghostwriting his book, and that was fantastic. But, I mean, in terms of this fight, I really feel like it's like asking me who'd win a juggling contest between Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. It's an absolute abomination to the sport of MMA, and I think it's ridiculous that it's even happening. I mean, for years and years, we've gone on national radio stations and international broadcasts trying to convince people that this is a real sport. And now we're at a moment where people really do see this as a mainstream sport, especially in America. And now we're going to put a 52-year-old, engineer against a 39-year-old software programmer and put it in a main event of one of the biggest leagues in the world in this sport. I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
No offense, Peter, but I think you're coming across as a bit too serious. I mean, Dana White, who's in charge of much of it, has said this is going to be the biggest fight ever, generating billions. And not only that, you've got Jorge Masvidal offering to train Musk, also Royce Gracie, Georges St-Pierre, and then you've got John Jones, complete legend, offering to train Mark Zuckerberg. So they seem to think it's all right.
Well, I mean, people with money like people with money, I guess. The way I see it is, I know people. You're right in saying that Dana White is kind of presenting this. Can't we have some fun? But unfortunately, people have been devastatingly injured in this sport. There's people who fought 15 years ago that have horrific brain injuries that we don't talk about. But that's the reality of this sport. I personally know brilliant fighters who fought in the biggest leagues in the world, but just came up short in making it to the UFC, because this is meant to be the elite grounds of this mixed martial arts sport. So to have two guys who have absolutely no business fighting getting in there for a fight, I think
Are you saying that either of them can inflict, mortal damage on the other?
No, but I mean, people inflict mortal damage on each other outside a pub after too many pints. So these two guys are training.
But you're talking
There's
about
a massive weight disparity.
Oh, there's
a massive size disparity. Yeah. So I mean, I do. Like I have been around amateur fights where it's their first fight and people get very injured. So yes,
you're talking about a couple of middle-aged techie nerds fighting in a presumably the floor is quite soft and can absorb a bit of shock.
Yeah, it's soft enough, but I mean, the cage definitely isn't. The part that you could be slammed into too. Like really, like this is so silly. Like this is like Richard Branson suddenly emerging on the Ryder Cup team. Like what would golf fans say about that? What would golf pundits say about that? What are we saying about this as a sport if we're just going to allow two guys to fight because they've got loads of money? Because that's all this is.
Okay, well, look, the public might have the final say. If they want to see it, they're going to see it, right? Let me ask you about who's going to win, right? So the bookies seem to think that the bigger man is going to win, but I spoke to a bare-knuckle gypsy boxer today, and he felt that even though the walrus, I beg your pardon, Elon Musk has the greater strength, the power, the height. Sorry, he said he has a walrus move. We'll talk about that another time.
Right.
He felt that Zuckerberg, with his increased training and good training team around him, would probably win, probably bring him down to the ground and choke him out. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg has trained in jiu-jitsu, but so have I. That doesn't mean I'm going to be ready to fight in a UFC main event. I trained jiu-jitsu for nearly 10 years, but I would get destroyed if I stepped near an MMA fighter in an MMA fight. Right, I guess Dana's telling us that he has lots of street fights under his belt back in South Africa. So, I mean, maybe that's his background. But yeah, okay, I'll say Zuckerberg because he's done some jiu-jitsu, but I still think it's an absolute joke.
Okay, that aside, who's going to win?
I'm going Zuck if it's going to happen, and I'll watch it through my fingers because I'll be horrified at what we're going to see because it will be a terrible fight. And the thing I'm most worried about is Dana's right. Lots of people will watch this, but what will be their big takeaway? It will be, wow, what a terrible fight. Why did the supposed biggest league in mixed martial arts put on this stupid fight for no reason? What are they fighting for?
Well, anyway, you're going for Zuckerberg at 5'7" and a massive weight disadvantage and a complete nerd. But okay,
he's got abs.
He's got abs, and he's going to need them if Musk exercises the walrus position and just lays on top of him. That's it, isn't it? That's game over.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets him in the walrus, like, not a lot of people have got out of that one, I guess.
Peter Carroll, thank you so much for that. Much appreciated. From the cage to the courtroom now, and Elon Musk is threatening to sue Zuckerberg over the similarity between Threads and Twitter. In a letter sent to the Meta CEO, his lawyer alleges that Meta employees working on Threads had and continue to have access to Twitter's trade secrets and other highly confidential information. It also warns that Twitter intends to strictly enforce its intellectual property rights and demands that Meta take immediate steps to stop using any Twitter trade secrets or other highly confidential information. Musk has also tweeted in recent days to say that while competition is fine, cheating is not. In response, the Meta spokesman, Andy Stone, has denied the allegations, saying no one on the Threads engineering team is a former Twitter employee. That's just not a thing. Okay, let's bring in Sharon Sandy now. She's a professor at Hamline University School of Law and an internationally recognized expert on trade secret law. Sharon, welcome to the program. So Elon Musk sends a legal letter through his lawyer to Mark Zuckerberg. It lands on his desk. He takes it to his lawyer. If you were Zuckerberg's lawyer, would you be concerned by this?
If I were Zuckerberg's lawyer, I would want to find out more facts. But I think the 3 claims based on what's said in the letter wouldn't cause me too much concern.
Okay, so the main concern from Elon Musk's point of view is that Zuckerberg's firm Meta has taken on former Twitter employees and has used them to develop Threads. First of all, is there anything wrong in that? They've denied it. And is there anything wrong in that? Can that form the basis for successful litigation?
They have 3 claims. One is a trade secret misappropriation claim, one is a breach of confidentiality claim, and the other is a claim regarding scraping the internet for data. And of those 3 claims, the one that might have the most strength would be the trade secret misappropriation claim, but it would depend on whether there were actual trade secrets that the employees were exposed to and took with them.
Some tech analysts I've spoken to have said, well, what trade secrets? It's really not that hard to make a text-based microblogging site. What might they be?
That's an excellent question. A lot of what's visible on Twitter, I mean, is visible to the public or is readily ascertainable. This is the trade secret lingo by software people and engineers. So it would have to be something very back office and very specific to be a trade secret. And there's nothing in the letter to indicate what that is.
This scraping data business, I mean, every time we look up, we see new terminology from the tech sector. That's new to me anyway. Scraping data?
Yes, this is actually a rather old concept. Started with the internet, mid-90s. The idea is you could use software tools to collect the data that is visible over the internet. And generally, that's okay because that information is being shared with the world, literally. So, what's the problem with scraping it? The issue is becoming more important because of AI and companies that want to now protect their data because they see the benefit to using it in the future for artificial intelligence systems.
Well, that's something we're going to pick up with the tech experts in a second. Last question then. You don't think that Meta and Mark Zuckerberg have anything to worry about in the courts?
Again, it depends on what happened, but one thing I should mention, both companies are located in California, and California has a very long-standing law that says that that there cannot be enforceable non-compete agreements. So, in my view, employees have a fundamental right to learn on the job and to take their knowledge with them. Trade secrecy is an exception, and for that reason, trade secrets are actually defined fairly narrowly, as are confidential information.
Sharon Sandy, thanks so much. Much appreciated. Let's look at the user experience of these apps now. And Twitter is the established choice, still used by millions of the world's most famous and influential people. Threads has a very similar interface. You might say they look virtually indistinguishable, but it is still lacking basic functionalities such as private messaging. Interactions appear to be substantially different too. Twitter is prioritizing verified users in replies, while Threads has allowed people to move over all their followers from Instagram, giving huge audiences to influencers and companies with large established followings. So which one's better? Let's bring in two of our regular Nexus contributors now. We have Matt Binder, a tech reporter at Mashable, and Chris Ruby, a conservative social media analyst too. Thank you, both of you, for coming onto the Nexus. Much appreciated. Matt, you've been a thorn in Elon Musk's side since he bought Twitter. Has he challenged you to a cage fight yet?
No, unfortunately he hasn't, because that would be a lot of fun, I'm sure. Yeah, no, you know, me and Musk, Musk and I should say, go back a little bit now. In December, when Elon had the Elon Jet Tracker account, the automated account set up by a college student to basically look data to track whenever Elon Musk's private jet would take off or land. He banned that account, and I had covered it along with a few other journalists at different outlets. And we were all also banned for temporarily, unlike the Elon Jet account, but we were temporarily banned for covering the account on Twitter. And then in April, again, me and Musk came head to head when I covered the Block the Blue campaign that was sort of spearheaded by sort of this Twitter icon known as Drill, who writes very funny Twitter posts and has amassed over 1 million followers just from those. Elon then, in order to sort of stop this campaign where users were blocking anyone paying Twitter for the Twitter Blue check mark, he gave myself and Drill a free on the house check mark.
Wow. Well, it's sort of a gift that you didn't want, but you got it anyway.
Right.
Do you feel proud to be on Elon Musk's radar?
It's certainly a good thing in terms of knowing that my work is getting in front of the eyeballs of not only people who I think should be aware of what's going on at Twitter, but also the people who are responsible for what's going on at Twitter.
So the commentators on the the commentators on the mainstream media say, people like yourselves have been waiting for an alternative to Twitter to come along, one that is a kinder, gentler place, a better public square without so many Nazis on it, in their terms. I will come to whether or not those things are actually correct or not. But you're on Threads now. How do you find it? Do you find it a bit better or worse than Twitter?
Sure. I mean, I'm not necessarily looking for a kinder or gentler place than Twitter, because my main issues with Twitter, at least Elon Musk's, isn't the priority to me isn't the actual types of accounts that are running rampant on the platform. It's just that the platform is deteriorating in many ways. Politics removed completely. Just the way he's running it from a business and technical standpoint.
Really?
Anyone who
Like
used
what?
Twitter prior to, oh, for example, you could just look at the weekend before last, where he purposefully blocked users who weren't logged into an account from even being able to view Twitter. And then furthermore, he started rate limiting actual users, limiting how many tweets they could load up into their feed. And once they hit, like, for example, at first it was 600 tweets. You couldn't view Twitter anymore until those rate limits were reset.
All right, Chris, do you think there's enough argument here that an alternative to Twitter is required and that Threads fulfills that?
So again, I sort of agree with Matt here that I don't think that either of us are looking for a quote unquote kinder, gentler alternative to Twitter. I think that, however, there is a market for people who are in general looking for Twitter alternatives. That being said, does it have to be kinder, gentler? I don't know that I would say that. But I think we're sort of seeing the end of an era in social media, and that the days are going to be quickly behind us where people gathered in or on a quote unquote public square in at least 3 of these major platforms. Now what's happening is that there's a digital diaspora is what I call it. People are spreading out all over the place, whether they're going to Mastodon, Threads, some are staying on Twitter, you have others on Truth Social, others are still on Facebook, Instagram. So they're just really sort of spreading out all over the place. And I think that there's some part of that's a little bit sad, right? Because you used to know that if you were on any of these 3 major platforms, there was a high likelihood that your community and network would be on them. And I think that those days, again, are going to be behind us, where it will be more challenging to connect with your friends or family and assume that they're going to be on the platform of your choice, because I think that these platforms in general are going to get just much more niche oriented. And especially as you sort of go into federated social media or some of these quote unquote decentralized networks, that will only further the divide. As far as Threads is concerned, do I think it's a true alternative to Twitter? No. And the reason for that is because you had Miss Ari of Instagram basically say that they don't necessarily want Threads as a place for politics or news. So that's them saying, I believe they don't view it as an alternative, because Twitter is the place for news. Regardless of whether people like that, agree with it, disagree with it, that's still where all the journalists are.
Matt, is it actually just a sort of progressive, liberal conspiracy between a tech billionaire and all the MSNBCs of this world to put Elon Musk's Twitter out of business because he allows people like Donald Trump and Andrew Tate and others to come onto his platform? They don't like that.
Right, of course. The MSNBC hosts have the power over a tech billionaire in Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, it's a really silly idea, because what basically we're seeing here is Mark finally able to fulfill a longtime dream of his, and that is to actually launch a Twitter competitor. This isn't some new idea from him. He's noticed Twitter from well before Elon Musk even acquired it, like many years before, and he noticed the space that Twitter held in the overall tech industry, and he wanted a piece of that pie.
Right.
He just decided that now is that perfect opening, with Elon making so many mistakes with the platform.
So it's just
and I think, if there ever was an opening, now's the time, and that's why they've struck.
So it's purely a
The
coincidence.
timing is highly suspicious, though. I think in many respects it is sort of a copy of what Twitter is doing. And I will say this, based on my own experience with Elon Musk, I did reporting called the Ruby Files, where I spoke to someone who previously worked at Twitter in data science and machine learning. And the focus of that work that I did over many months was looking at the Twitter's former political misinformation model and how content was potentially censored in that model. And so the reason I bring this up is because throughout that entire time, over many months, I've never received any sort of cease and desist from Musk. I've never received anything from his legal team at all. So the fact that he went after Musk with that letter, to me, tells me, like, I just don't find him to be an overly litigious person. if he sent that letter, I believe it's for a reason, and a lot of the top people and engineers from Twitter are now executing over at Meta in Threads some of the things that he obviously knows were previously being worked on.
Just a final response to that then, Matt?
What exactly is suspicious? I'm a little bit confused about. I mean, it seems to me like the idea here is just that a competing tech company, specifically, we could even say competing tech billionaire, because Zuckerberg has called Musk out just as Musk has called Zuckerberg out. It just seems like this is purely a business decision where Meta sees an opening here.
Matt Binder and Chris Ruby, thank you so much for your contributions to the Nexus today. Much appreciated. And thank you at home and on your phones for watching. If you want to see this episode or any of our previous episodes, do go to our channel on YouTube. Just type in Nexus TRT World. Till next week then, goodbye.